Coach, what were your thoughts on the yellow cards? They were sort of right in your line of vision.
Yeah, no one can look at them and say they're yellow cards, but I don't want to be someone that, for my own satisfaction, comes out and talks about the refereeing decisions and the way in which they influence the game. So I don't want to dwell too much on that, because everyone has seen with their own eyes, I suppose, as to how the game is impacted by those instances. So I don't want to dwell on it repeatedly. But yeah, disappointing. But the big thing today is how we responded, how we finished the game, and I'd much rather spend our time focusing on that.
Does Clint need to just punch that ball a little bit better, or was that one maybe he could have had, or what was it from your viewpoint?
Yeah, I think Clint's really disappointed with that one. I'm sure he'd be the first to say that he would like to deal with that better. I think it's one of the few opportunities we really gave them over the course of the game of any real note. So it's disappointing to have lost it in that way, given the circumstances wrapped around that. But again, Clint's done a really good job for us since he stood in really difficult circumstances. So another one that I won't really dwell on all that much.
When you go down to 10 men, was there a way that you were able to kind of reshape the formation, even though it wasn't halftime? And
yeah, we ended up playing with two lines of four and a single forward, and then quickly at halftime changed to playing with the front two, Bongi and Sangbin to start with, and I think it helped us. It of course wasn't just solely due to the change of the players' attitudes and the way they attacked the game in the second half, the way that the fans really supported the team, the way that they drove the team through really difficult circumstances. They're the most important ingredients in a situation like that. But I think the way we looked, the way we ended up setting up was to the team's benefit. And yeah, we had a really good go in the second half, which is the important thing.
How do you think your team responded in the last 65 minutes?
Yeah, they did incredibly well. It's exactly as we would have wanted them to respond, and I think it speaks to this circumstance, really. And I've just said to the players in the dressing room that you strip away all the disappointment of the situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. That is a performance that will stand us in good stead as the season goes on. This fortunately is one of those leagues that affords you to have these spells that we're in at the moment, where there's an awful lot that's going against you, and that's showing in results. But fortunately tonight it didn't show in performance and attitude and application and togetherness and a sense of group and team that we've got here. And I think as the season goes on, as we get into the latter stages, that is the most important thing. So as disappointing as tonight is for a load of reasons, there's far more positive than negative to take from that.
It seems like after you make the substitutions with Clark and Fragapane, you looked like the more dangerous team. You drew more corners. Did the team sense that as well? Did you notice that it felt like you guys were the better team?
Yeah, I think we always felt in the second half, with the way the crowd is here, the way they respond to good moments. If we could have a couple of good moments in the second half, that we would likely be the dominant team, at least for a little while. It's difficult to sustain attacks for really long periods when you're a man down, and when you haven't perhaps got the depth on the bench that we would normally have here. But to a man, the players did absolutely everything they could possibly have done today. Really front foot, really played forward. Even with the message being at half time to pick and choose your moments to press and not open up too early in the game, the players pressed the game really well, really squeezed the game in the second half, and I think that's to their credit. There's absolutely no one who can look at that game today and say the players didn't absolutely empty out on the pitch, and that's huge for us.
looked like there was a huge improvement with the intentionality of maybe some more dynamic cuts off the ball in the second half. Was that one of the things mentioned in the locker room? And if not, what was mentioned?
Yeah, it was making sure that when we had the chances to attack, that we did attack with real purpose, and we played forward quickly and we ran forward. And I think at our very best, we're a dynamic team, and we've showed that in the second half in spite of the situation. And that's what we want from our forwards. We want them to be running on the back line relentlessly. We want to play forward quickly. We don't want to be overly patient, and we did that to really good effect, albeit it didn't come to any result, not loads and loads of clean-cut chances. I think, given the circumstances, the performance overall in that sense was excellent.
You said you always want to stay positive. Do you find it difficult to be positive on the back of 3 consecutive defeats?
No, strangely, I really don't, and I'm very relaxed about this situation because for multiple reasons. But number one, I know that we are in a good place. I know that again, I've tried to stress over the course of the last couple of weeks to the players and to anyone that's asked that we're not leaning into any excuse that we've got on the table at the moment. But we're in this position for me for lots of reasons, and largely those reasons aren't the quality of the group. They're not the togetherness of the group. They're not the way we're training. They're not work rate. They're not attitude. They're not application. It's a strange set of circumstances that we find ourselves in over the course of the last couple of weeks. So for that reason, I'm positive for the light at the end of the tunnel that we'll experience in the coming weeks with players coming back, and for what we've done this year. I'm positive so far because I know we're onto a good thing with this group, and the group know that as well. And as far as the table goes, this fortunately is one of those divisions that gives you a bit of a chance to stay in touch because of the nature of how the results go and what we've done up until this point. So we've got a bit of margin for error, but I'm sure we will get back on track. I'm absolutely adamant, and I'm sure the players feel that. So we have no problems at the moment. We do not feel like the walls are caving in any way.
It looked like Minnesota United's fullbacks and wings were often isolated on the flanks, with the closest 4 jerseys or 5 jerseys being Austin's. Was that by design to like crowd the middle and the weak side of the pitch, or is that something that might receive some correction in the future?
When we've got the ball, or
when you have the ball.
Yeah, it is obviously difficult when you have a man less than the opposition to make sure that on big switches of play you've got players close, which is typically something we do well. So they both Joe, but more so Caden, as he came on, did find himself 1v1 often. But I think he acquitted himself really well in those situations, and found himself down the side of the box repeatedly, in spite of the fact he didn't have loads of support. So I think it was more a consequence of the man down situation than anything else, I would say.
Sangbin gets the chances, but sometimes he doesn't finish them all. What does he need to do in order to maybe get a little bit better at finishing those opportunities?
He needs to keep working on that side of his game without a shadow of a doubt. I think he's filling a role for us at the moment that typically Tani or Pookie would do so. Sangbin is definitely capable of playing there, and you see in lots of moments that he's got a real eye for the space in behind. He makes really intelligent runs. He's a really willing runner, relentless runner. So he's got a good deal, which means that when I look at him in that position, I'm confident. You've seen in games recently that he has got a cutting edge to him when he's on it. He will say himself that he needs to make sure that is the case more often than not. So yeah, you can't look at the guy tonight though and be critical, because the shift he did for the team was phenomenal, and the fact that he's still making those runs in behind as the game goes on is really impressive, and he's exactly what you want in a player when you find yourself in that situation. He's completely selfless, and I'm sure as the season goes on he will take his chances more often than not.
Is there, when you're down to 10 men, is there a temptation to just put in sort of a big, tall, traditional center forward and just aim some long balls over the top of him?
I think you could certainly look at it that way. I think for us it was making sure that we struck that balance between staying in the game, not being too open, but also having a threat on the counter-attack, which we did. And in Bongi and Sangbin, you have players that are capable of really working hard for the team, protecting the middle of the pitch, but then being a big threat on the transition. I think that was a good change for us. And then Rob, when he went alongside Sangbin, obviously he provides something similar. So we wanted to strike that balance between really chasing the game, being positive, but also not being naive enough to open the game up quickly. So I think had one of those chances of Sangbin's perhaps, or one of the set plays gone in at the end, you'd feel like you'd and they had played it perfectly, but unfortunately not to be tonight.
Anyone, Coach?
Good, thanks guys.